The Violence Policy Center released a new study on Wednesday, and it looked into the concept of firearm self-defense to determine how prevalent it really is. It's also a really interesting day to discuss this because, of course, yesterday we had the terrorist attack in South Carolina where a racist, pro-segregation, pro-apartheid white male went into a black church and killed 9 people. How that guy was able to get a gun. Unfortunately, his father bought it for him and gave it to him as a gift. But what this story will do, is it will bust up probably the most common myth about owning a gun and just how much of a positive thing it is. Statistics beg to differ. So here are the findings. Quote, American gun owners are far more likely to injure themselves or someone else with their firearm than to stop a criminal. There were 258 justifiable homicides involving civilians using firearms in 2012, compared with 8,342 murders by gun. Even if a criminal isn't shot down, the study found that civilians rarely use guns to protect themselves. Okay, let's pause here. You want to know why this is? Because life isn't a Liam Neeson movie. Life is not a Steven Seagal movie or a Chuck Norris movie or fill in the old awkward white guy who somehow saves the day every time movie. See, people think they start to believe that kind of bullshit. That, well, let me tell you something, I'm going to get a gun, and then if I see anything happen, I got my gun on my hip, I'm going to take care of it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the hero. Except you're not going to be the hero. You're not going to be the hero. The statistics show that the overwhelming majority of the time, nobody's a hero. When more people have guns, more people are killed by guns. That's the simple formula that apparently is true. They say the study relied on FBI and Bureau of Justice data, and it disproves the premise of arguments by the National Rifle Association that more guns in the hands of regular people will reduce crime. It just doesn't, guys. It just doesn't. All right, so now that you know the facts and the conclusion of this report, let's take a look at the counter-argument. Quote, the Gun Owners of America maintains a section on its website, Just for Skeptics, that cites reports that Americans each year use guns 2.5 million times in self-defense. 2.5 million. It's interesting. That's an interesting number. So that number is so large and so ridiculous that some media outlets went to the Cato Institute, which is a right-wing think tank, and they're also against gun regulation, and they said, hey, man, could you back up this claim? I mean, that number's a little out there, right? Here's what they said, quote, there are many unreported incidents in which a would-be criminal flees when a civilian brandishes a gun in self-defense. Unreported. Here's a question. If it's unreported, how the fuck do you know about it? How are we supposed to use that in official empirical data? How are we supposed to use that to learn facts when it is not a fact? It is unreported. In other words, you fucking made it up. You're saying, yeah, so just come up with some high number to shut up the liberals. 2.5 million. There are 2.5 million examples of people saving lives by using a gun. I just made it up, but I'm going to say it's a fact. But it's not a fact. I just told you the actual facts using the official data. 258 times that happened, but 8,342 times it didn't happen. And then, by the way, we haven't even added into the conversation the other gun statistics. So they're talking specifically about murders there with that number. But when you take into account all the deaths with guns, so accidents and suicides as well and things like that, the number is 32,000 in America. 32,000 gun deaths on average every single year. And only 258 they say it was justified because it was in self-defense and the person used a gun and saved themselves. So if you do the math, the bottom line is, even though you think guns make you safer, they actually make you less safe. You're statistically much more likely to get killed by somebody you know. Do you understand that? That's very important. You're more likely to get killed by somebody in your family or somebody who was a friend than you are by some kind of stranger. Just bringing a gun into your house increases your chances, your likelihood of getting shot significantly. Now, I understand there is a catch-22 here, because if there's the rare scenario where somebody is breaking into your house or there is a mass shooting going on, everybody wants to have a gun at that point in time. But the reality is the overwhelming majority of the time, that doesn't happen. So then, just having the gun with you makes it much more likely there's going to be an accident or somebody you know is going to kill you, or, you're going to commit suicide or something like that. So all you need to know about this, man, just take U.S. gun deaths versus European gun deaths. Whether it's France or Britain, or even if you go, look elsewhere to Australia. What do you find? In those places, it's less than 100 gun deaths per year on average. Now, how is that? Because they have stricter gun control. Less guns means less gun deaths. We already have the most lax gun laws out of the modern nations, and we have the highest gun death rate. So if these guys were right, if the conservatives were right, more guns equals more peace, man, well, then we would have the safest country in the world, and we'd have the least number of gun deaths. But we have the most in the modern world. Why? Because more guns equals more gun deaths. Now understand, even saying all this doesn't mean that I'm in favor of banning guns. This doesn't mean I'm in favor of confiscation. This doesn't mean anything like that. I'm actually a moderate on this issue. All I want to do is stop crazy people, bipolar people, severely depressed people, people who have criminal histories, etc., from getting guns. How can anybody oppose that? But that's the thing in America, there are people who do oppose that. All I want is a universal background check. All I want is some regulations on which kind of guns you can buy in certain situations. Is that fucking crazy? If you think that's crazy, chances are you're crazy. And just remember, regardless of what you think of whether or not you want to own a gun, or you can own a gun, or you should own a gun, regardless of, your own personal position on what you would do, just remember, facts are facts. And the facts are, just having a gun makes it more likely that you're going to die because of a gun. And the myth of, guns are always used to stop crime all the time, nonsense. It's made up, and the data shows it is untrue.